Since its release, every stream of Dead by Daylight, I have been asked at least once, Welshie, what do you think of Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Usually followed by the inevitable, is TCM better than Dead by Daylight? What I can say is after hours of playing both matches of Survivor and Killer, or Family as TCM calls it, chats and discussions with scientists, charts and graphs and other cool shit to try and figure out mathematically which is the superior, I have come to the conclusion which will no doubt settle it once and for all. So, without further ado, is TCM better than Dead by Daylight? Has TCM dethroned Dead by Daylight? And the answer is... nah, not really. Thanks for watching. If you like this content, feel free to give me a follow, and maybe even follow me on Twitch and Twitter. I like to ramble, and we can talk more about this sort of stuff. Anyway, you have a great one. We're done. Okay, you know, maybe I can go into a bit more detail, like I feel like I should. The comparison to Dead by Daylight is only natural. Both are asymmetrical horror games. Both involve a team of survivors working against the killers. Hell, even Dead by Daylight has Leatherface. So, inevitably, there's going to be some comparisons. The problem with comparing Dead by Daylight to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, while easy, is really quite unfair. It's the same as comparing Forza to Need for Speed just because they're both racing games, or something like City Skylines with Civilization just because you're building cities in both games. So, while yes, I can see how you've come to this conclusion, it has to be stated that both games are very different and have enough going for them that they are completely different experiences. Both Dead by Daylight and Texas Chainsaw Massacre are both asymmetrical horror games, with the goal of survivors escaping from a map, and the killers, well, killing the survivors. I know, truly revolutionary stuff. Dead by Daylight requires the survivors to repair 5 generators to power one of 2 exit gates, with their only defense being their superior movements and the ability to throw some pallets down, maybe a flashlight here and there. While Texas Chainsaw Massacre has a team of survivors requiring to pick locks, repair one of multiple escape routes, and avoiding a team of 3 killers, all with matches starting against one killer, that being Leatherface, in a basement at the start of each game, expanding to a full roster of 3 killers once a survivor dies, makes too much noise, or escapes the basement. If I had to describe what makes Texas Chainsaw Massacre different from Dead by Daylight, the main difference I would have to say is the tone. Dead by Daylight started as a serious horror game built around an idea of hide and seek, but over time, with more and more time and patches and updates, it became more around the thrill of the chase. And with the introductions of certain characters and cosmetics and some interesting crossovers, I would say it's safe to say that Dead by Daylight has moved into more an action thriller comedy scene than anything else. Combining with the killers of Dead by Daylight feeling restrictive, their movements being more direct and precise, to the killers needing to hit survivors twice with some weird wiping animations, to the requirements of hooking them 3 times. It feels arcadey. You don't feel like the killer. And I know it's for the good of the game. Most felt is when you're playing someone like Nemesis from Resident Evil. In Resident Evil, Nemesis is an uncontrollable, unstoppable beast that just tears entire squadrons of men apart and will level an entire city. But in Dead by Daylight, he's a punching, whipping boy, which can be blinded with a flashlight. It doesn't feel like Nemesis. Texas Chainsaw Massacre has what I can feel is a firmer grasp on the horror. Matches can end instantly when encountering a killer. Most of the time, you feel defenseless against the family. The arenas feel like they're from the movies. Gun Media have got a knack for making horror movies translate well to the games. They did this with Friday the 13th, and it continues here with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It feels like the movie. The sounds are right. The looks are right. I swear, I even think the smells are right. Yes, as a survivor, you can put up a defense against the killers in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it never feels like you're in control of the situation. You don't have a reliable set of tools to protect yourself against them. And if two of them getting up on you, it's game over. I've had matches of Texas Chainsaw Massacre end quicker than the time I spent in queue, usually from a wrong turn, and it truly felt like a horror movie moment. I took a wrong turn down the wrong alley, and it was over. There was no head-on from a locker to save me, no flashlight to quickly blind the killer. It was done. With that saying, you think that maybe that Texas Chainsaw Massacre is the better option between the two, and I would have to say no. Texas Chainsaw Massacre does one thing right, and it does it very right, and that's it's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre game. But with it being a Texas Chainsaw Massacre game, that's it. It's very hyper focused on what it can deliver, and it's limited on what it will deliver. But I mean, that's okay. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I feel, is a great palate cleanser. It's a party game. It's a guilty pleasure. You jump in, have a few matches, and jump off. You're not going to be coming back for hours and hours on end doing theory crafting of builds and doing certain perk loadouts. You know exactly what you're getting. A match in Texas Chainsaw Massacre will pit 4 survivors against 3 killers in a match of 2 stages. Stage 1 is what I like to call the setup stage. 4 survivors will be trapped in the basement with Leatherface, needing to escape through one of many doors to open to the rest of the match. During the stage, the other members of the family will be on the outside of the basement, feeding Grandpa, who acts as the family's 4th killer. Grandpa is fed blood, which allows him to unlock his abilities, which act as a glorified radar system. He'll also be setting up traps, locking doors, and making it harder for the survivors once they inevitably escape from the basement. After the first survivor is killed, too much noise is made, Grandpa is fed enough blood, or someone escapes the basement, the phase 2 is active. This leads into phase 2 of the escapes, where once the survivors have made their way out of the basement, they'll be able to pick locks, repair generators, and other mechanical contraptions to open one of 3 exits to escape the family. Well, 4 if you're playing on gas station, which is bullshit because they never explain that there's a 4th exit, even though there's a cinematic that plays at the beginning of every match explaining that there are 3 exits, but no, there's a 4th exit. There's a 4th exit exclusive to gas station, and it's a load of bullshit because they never fucking explain it, and you'll always lose this on your first player's killer. Unlike Dead by Daylight, each survivor has their own unique powers helping in their escape. You have the tough guy Leyland, who can stun killers, to Anna, who can resist damage for a certain amount of time. The same goes for the killers having their own unique powers, from Bubba's chainsaw that can destroy doors and obstacles to the cook, who has keen hearing that can pinpoint survivors around the map. Both have their own stats which can be tweaked accordingly, from their damage output to their movement speed to how long they can run. However, unfortunately, due to this leads to a very common issue. That's other players will dodge lobbies and disconnect if they don't get the character of choice that they've invested in. This has recently opened up a can of worms, one that Dead by Daylight has also been frequent of criticism, and that is the DLC being paid to win. Dead by Daylight is mostly avoided, or at least downplayed it, with survivors being cosmetic, with their perks being able to be equipped from one survivor to another survivor, and with the killers, with their perks being in the same camp, but if the killer is not licensed, you can earn in-game points to be able to purchase this killer outright. Texas Chainsaw, however, just announced its roadmap of DLCs and its costing, and stirring up a storm would be a bit of an understatement. Since the characters have their abilities locked to them and they can't be equipped from one character to another character, it's most certainly pay to win. There's just no dancing around it. If a survivor or killer comes out with a good power or a good ability, you need to pay real money to get this character. And with the costing structure being revealed, ranging anywhere from $5 to $15, it's a bit of a tough pill to swallow. I've made my peace with DLCs and where I'm willing to buy and what I'm willing to buy, but I think I found the line and I just can't do it with Texas Chainsaw. Microtransactions aside, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a great game of hide and seek, with the best defense being not being spotted at all, and the killers need to be great trackers. And the best tool of all is communication. That's right, communication with your voice, because Texas Chainsaw Massacre has voice comms, something that Dead by Daylight likes to avoid with the Plague. However, it feels really effective here, and it's the only way that the family can really take down the teams of survivors due to their mobility. Survivors are able to crawl under obstacles, vault through pallets, and be able to crawl through crawl spaces. The killers, while they're able to damage and close some of these off, they can't really follow the survivors. So working with your other teammates to be able to pincer survivors is where the game really shines, and it becomes this amazing feat of strength when you be able to pincer that one annoying survivor and finally put him to the sword. Encountering a single killer will start really a frantic game of cat and mouse, trying to put line of sight blockers between you and the killer. And it feels frantic and it feels chaotic. It feels like a horror movie. Truly, it's honestly thrilling. And the first few games, it's one hell of a rush, and it's the rush that will keep you coming back. With it being based on a movie series, it's going to be limited in what content will be available. The same happened with Friday the 13th, Gun Media's other asymmetrical horror game based on another famous movie series. Again, the word issue would be loosely used here, as while it is a bit of an issue in what content will be available, it is going to be really polished and hyper-focused, and I truly appreciate that. I don't see Texas Chainsaw Massacre holding your attention for very long. It's going to be limited in what characters will be available, what maps and locations, and I think the gameplay loop is going to be set in stone. It's a solid loop, and I truly appreciate the thrill that it gives me in the chase, but I don't know if it's going to have me coming back. At the time of this recording, Texas Chainsaw Massacre has 3 maps, 5 killers, and 5 survivors, with another batch on the way, which is where the controversy kicked up earlier. Comparing Texas Chainsaw Massacre to Dead by Daylight, while expected, is incorrect. The similarities they have are very shallow. They're 2 completely different games. Texas Chainsaw Massacre has a more serious vibe going around. Its chases feel frantic, panicky, unclean, while Dead by Daylight is more actiony and comedic. The chases feel organized. There's a correct pattern to follow for maximizing time wasted for the killer. Dead by Daylight has long since abandoned the horror. When you have things like Attack on Titan appearing, or the characters wearing ugly Christmas sweaters, it's clear that you're no longer taking it seriously. But it's for the better for Dead by Daylight, as it being less horror-y means it's more open to more people being involved, as more people like the opportunity to play as these characters in a less serious manner. Horror is very subjective and has a very limited audience. With Dead by Daylight, you could be getting stalked by Ghostface, run down by Blight, or even stalked by Michael Myers. And in the years to come, who knows what's coming. Dead by Daylight is more of a sport than anything. It's more mechanical. It's hit twice, hook 3 times, run this loop clockwise. Maybe it's the 5,000 hours of Dead by Daylight talk, and the 5,000 hours that I'm sure my wife isn't jealous of or should be concerned about. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is more of a party game than the sport of Dead by Daylight. A party game that has the horror from the panic, as one wrong move ends the game. It's on Game Pass. If you're even curious, give it a peek. And as always, I've been Welsh1. Thank you so much for joining me for this review. This is Pixel Kitty. I'm in a hoodie, and I'll catch you on the next one. Pixel, I think that the cosmetics for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre didn't cost $16. I think it would be an alright deal. Yeah, you're probably right.